Can you remember your best friend from middle school?
From Lincoln School. Uh, her name was Margaret Jones. She was kind of a chunky little gal. Her father owned a taxi company. And she was quite a gal. Worked on our high school newspaper, and I was editor my senior year, and I liked dramatics, and I was not a musician
No.
or a singer. I'm still not. And I guess that was just the regular little high school newspaper. Sports, of course, probably dominated. And we had, we had a little journalism class. And oh, we would have to assign stories,
Mm-hmm.
and they'd go out and cover their stories and write it up. And I don't recall that we could have a lot of pictures because the cameras weren't so prevailing then, but we could have a few pictures, and it was printed at the Times Record.
Okay.
So, work? No.
No.
My mother was very ill,
Okay.
and so I worked, yes, but at home. Taking care of my father, of course, worked, and I had a younger sister and brother, so. And really, back then, we didn't work. It was back in Depression days. The only thing I probably did do was babysit, to earn a little money. But if we got 20, 25 cents, we were in lots of money. Didn't have a car,
Okay.
and I would say it was probably maybe 4 or 5 cents a gallon, because I was a little older. We used to save our pennies and stuff, and there was one uh, person, a boy in our crowd, that had money or had a little old Model T car, and we used to save our pennies and give them to him, and then buy gas, and we'd go out to our city dump and shoot rats. A family named Pillar owned the theater, and it was the Pillar Theater, and they also owned another little one called the Rex. The Rex was cheaper, and that usually had Western movies in it. So, oh yeah, but she had just one boyfriend, Bob Carter. He was an athlete, played football, basketball, baseball,
Yeah.
and he too. Uh, he was living with his grandmother. His parents were,
Mm-hmm.
I think, one of them was dead, and but he was really a nice kid. We went together for 4 years. He had brown curly hair and nice smile, and he was just a nice. Weekends were athletic weekends. He was involved in all sports, and that's when it took place on weekends. So was usually going to games, and at that time, goodness, it would have been very, very impossible even to go to Jamestown or Fargo if they played there to see them. Yes, she was 36 years old, and it was in 1936 because she was born in 1900. Pretty devastating, but you did the best you could. So, her name was Miss Steinborn, and like I said, my mother died just before my senior year, and if it hadn't been for Miss Steinborn, I don't think I'd have made it. She was the advisor for our paper, and I was editor, and boy, she helped me through a lot of difficult times. Well, I shouldn't say it, but the Cleveland Indians were, and I think I told you that my husband took me to Cleveland to see a World Series. My team got beat. We came home early, 4 in a row. Followed the team all the time, and we like the same sports and everything. So we followed them out of town. In fact, after the war, before there was any transportation to be had, we took 2 or 3 members of the team with us to wherever they were playing because that's the only way they could get there. To start with, he was in the Navy and he had just come home or been discharged. And he came back to Valley City and I was working for the local newspaper as the advertising manager. So naturally, I had to call on him as a new man in town to get an ad. So I went down, and it was right at lunchtime, just about, so we had lunch. And from then on, the only time he'd sell me an ad, or let me sell him an ad, was at lunchtime. So along came our North Dakota Winter Show, and they always have nice dances at the OKP Club. So one night he asked me if I wanted to go to the dance. Well, I loved to dance, and so did he. So we did that, and we'd been dating, I suppose, for maybe about 6 weeks or so. And while we were dancing, he saw my father on the dance floor, and he stopped him and he said, "Chauncey, I'm going to marry your daughter." It was the first I heard of it. He decided that September, sometime in the fall would be good. Well, he kept moving it up and moving it up, moving it up. Finally, we were married on May 10th. And of course, I was 28. So when we got home from our honeymoon, the men up and down the street, the businessmen were making bets on how long it would last because they all knew me and they were getting to know him. And he was a typical businessman, and very generous. And so turned out the marriage lasted 49 years, and I never did find out what happened to all the $5 bills floating around. We were so different. And of course, it isn't like growing up or knowing somebody in the same town for years, But we managed somehow to weather a lot of difficulties. We had a lot of fun. We had two boys, and when we got home from our honeymoon, well, I told him before that I wouldn't live in the hotel because he had an apartment on the third floor, and the salesman that came to stay might as well have had a swinging door on it because that was their second home.
Mm-hmm.
And there was just no privacy at all. So we bought a house, and always we're going to either build or buy a new one. Every time we decided to, there was some reason come up why we didn't. One was they built the new public school in our same old house and enjoyed it all. It was on the river, so we liked it. I can still see it from my window here. I can't hear it go over, but I can see it very plainly, and I just love it.
Yeah.
In fact, the other night, I sat here and I counted it was going west, and I counted the number of empty oil cars. There were 143. We're kind of a real balanced community. I probably never would have had the job, but it was the beginning of the war, and all the men were going. So, yeah, I was very fortunate doing something I like to do and being well paid for it. So.
No.
No, it's all so different now
Yeah.
as far as the operation, and we had. I don't even know if we had electric typewriters then, because I know I did everything on an old manual typewriter that I had to do, and no, it's pretty different. To each his own. Yeah, the dinosaur itself is worth seeing, but I was amazed. Wes does such a marvelous job with keeping it rotating so that there's something different all the time. I don't know how he does it. Really don't. That and what he does. You could go in there every month and you'd find something different because he's always changing things.
Say bye.
Bye.